So I started posting on TikTok and I was getting, 100 views, 200 views, barely any views. I was scraping views every post I made. But I was motivated and I kept trying to get better and better and better, copying what the big creators were doing, trying to improve my videos. So I kept posting and posting, and eventually 100 views would go into 1,000 views, and I was pretty excited because I was starting to improve and I started to see progress. And one day I posted a video and it got 1,000 views, 10,000 views, and it kept going up and up and up. By the end of the day, it had 100,000 views, and I woke up the next morning, it had 200,000 views, and by the end of that day, it had 1,000,000 views. And then all these bad thoughts just kept coming in like, oh, your video is crap. Don't even look at the comments. They're all going to be negative. Stop posting videos. You're not a good content creator anyway. Why are you even posting? All these negative thoughts just kept coming into my mind. Because of these thoughts that I kept having, I didn't post anymore. I stopped posting after that. I let these thoughts control me. And so what I learned after that video is I got to figure out, why did I stop posting? Why did I let these negative thoughts control me? So I started reading loads of books and listening to podcasts and trying to understand myself better. And by the end of and it took me a year to figure this out, but I realized that I wasn't in control of my thoughts. My thoughts were controlling me. And that happened 2 years ago. And what I've realized since isn't that I wasn't in control of my thoughts, but it's actually that I had such a low standard for myself. And so this graph explains it perfectly. I was around here, I was posting videos and I'm getting 100, 200 views, and I wasn't getting much progress. So I started posting videos again, getting better and better and better. Started getting 10,000. That video that took off went up and got 1,000,000 views, and I was happy as Larry. But at the same time, this old version of myself pulled me back down to here at the baseline level, because this was my normal standard, getting 100, 200 views on a video. It wouldn't let me accept the fact that I'd gotten 1,000,000 views in a video, because my identity was conflicted with this identity. So one book that I read that really resonated with me was this called The Alter Ego Effect. And the guy explains that you have two versions of yourself like this. You have the best version of yourself that can get things done, that has positive thoughts, that makes progress in life. Then you have this other version of yourself, the enemy, that brings you back down to reality, your old self, that limits you, that whispers in your ear all those negative thoughts like, eat that food, stop doing that, stop posting the videos, you don't deserve this. That's the enemy version of yourself. And so we look at this graph. This can be applied to absolutely anything in life. For instance, getting a haircut. I would get a haircut and then I would wait, a couple months, few months go by, 3, 4, 5 months, and then my hair gets really oily, it's long, I feel super self-conscious. I go straight away to the barber and get it cut. And I feel confident again. And this loop keeps happening over and over again. Same thing for my weight as well. I weigh myself every single morning. My weight goes between 77 kilos, where I start feeling really skinny and I have no muscle, and then it goes up to 85 kilos, where I start feeling fat and I have to cut again to lose weight. And so it keeps going between in this cycle. And you start tracking and look at all your stats, from your income to your health, your sleep, all these stats that within your life, absolutely anything, they go in between these cycles. And it's because you have this lower standard that you're willing to tolerate. And this person always pulls you back down, this identity. This guy here is the enemy, and he keeps pulling you down. That's the reason why you keep sabotaging yourself. Because this enemy, this ego, is within you, and he's holding you back. He's constantly pulling you back. But how can you stop him? That's when we have to raise our lower standards. Become uncomfortable in this situation. Notice what this guy is doing to pull you back down. So how can we change this? You have to become aware of this guy. Focus all your attention on him. Give him a name. What are the stories he tells you? Why you shouldn't be doing anything? What actions does he do? And so for me, I named him Indoctrinated James. At 85 kilos, he turns up and tells me I've got to lose weight. So what does he do? So when I weigh myself and I get down to 77 kilos, he comes up and he tells me, James, you're too skinny. You got to start eating some of those grilled cheese sandwiches. They're really nice. Get some carbs into you. Why are you not eating any carbs? He comes and tells me all these stories, why I should start eating again. So name him, trying to visualize what stories does he tell you when he pops up? What actions does he make you do? Try and pull you back down. Really try and name this identity, this enemy, and visualize and think about what things does he tell you and whisper in your ear. What actions does he make you do? And once you become aware of him, then you're going to move on to raising your lower standard. So if you look at this graph, you'll make some progress and then you pull yourself down. But because you become aware next time of what things pulled yourself down, you start making more progress. And because you notice what habits you did to pull yourself down, you can make progress further than you did before. But eventually you are going to pull yourself back down. We can't be perfect all the time. And so then you can start to lose your progress. But what do? You make this number so uncomfortable you don't go near it ever again. And you make progress again. And you start to notice what action stopped you. And you start to notice you slip off eventually. You start to make less progress. Imagine if you get to this stage where your lowest standard is once what your highest standard was. That's where we want to get to. But we have to keep making progress, become aware of the things that are pulling us back, and then become comfortable and change our identities. So now when you're at this stage, this number becomes uncomfortable and you start making progress. This number becomes uncomfortable and you start making progress. You want this number, you want to be raising this lower standard as high as you can, constantly. You have to be aware of it first though. Start tracking that number, identify what's your priority, and figure out what's the lower standard that you're currently accepting. Raise it. Become aware of the things that pull yourself down as well. But this really comes back to controlling your mind. And your mind is like a bunch of instruments. All these instruments, the piano, the harp, the violin, the saxophone, they sound great by themselves. And you can become a great musician by just mastering one instrument. But when you bring these instruments together, you can create a symphony. And the symphony is not something you just listen to when you're in the car, but really it's an experience where it's just all that vibration and that energy brought together through all these instruments to create something pretty powerful. And so this is the same as your mind. Your brain here, that's just the physical manifestation of the mind, right? You have all these little neurons, single neurons that are within the mind. So these are the instruments. One instrument is pretty unique. It's pretty powerful. It can create an amazing sound. And the neurons are the same. They're pretty amazing what they can actually do. But when you connect all the neurons together, that's when you create the mind. All these little neurons are connected together and they've created your mind. The thing is, you can control the mind because you can select what instruments you have within your orchestra. Because there's the saying, neurons that fire together wire together. And that's how we create habits. So if you consistently use certain neurons and parts of your brains through habits and particular thoughts, those neurons start to become stronger and it's easier for them to transfer energy through each neuron and they become stronger. That's why it's super easy to just wake up in the morning and brush your teeth. You don't even have to think about it. You just go and do it because you've stimulated this neural circuit so many times, it's become automatic. And so that's what we want to do to actually control our mind. We want to select which instruments, so like what thoughts and actions you do every single day. They're the instruments you've got. And you want to select them so you can create an orchestra, although your mind, something that you can control in. And so that's how powerful your mind is because you can control it. So the game plan that I've been trying to implement is first naming this guy. Who's that negative thought that keeps pulling you back down? What's his name? Give him a name. Name the enemy. That's the first game plan. And the second thing is trying to visualize and picture in your mind. What things does he tell me that bring me back down? What actions does he make me do to sabotage myself? Become aware of the enemy, his name, and the tactics he uses on you. And then once you've done that, start raising a lower standard, tracking your stats, and figuring out what are you currently going in between. What's the numbers that's like your upper limit and your lower limit? Track those numbers. And now whenever you get to this upper limit, feel that same feeling here. Like imagine if you looked at your bank account and hit zero. You'd be like in panic mode. You want to be in panic mode when you go to this top number. You want to feel uncomfortable, like, oh crap, I've just hit this number, I've got to do something about it. And so when that feeling you get when you hit this number, you want to transfer it to this one. And that's by tracking your stats every single day, knowing the numbers that you go in between, and just feel uncomfortable when you hit that upper number. Say, oh, I feel uncomfortable. Tell yourself you feel uncomfortable. Try and imagine that feeling of when you feel uncomfortable and apply it when you see that number. Notice the tendencies, try and make progress, and you keep raising that lower limit And eventually, that lower limit will become what once was your upper limit. Being comfortable with your lower standard. That's what you got to do. That's the game plan. Now you got to learn how to control your mind. But it's actually easier to learn how to control your actions because your actions get your results, right? Well, in this video, I explained how I learned to control my actions by teaching myself like a dog.